Okay, let's move on. Overnighting. Now, this is the big one. Is wild camping allowed in Portugal? Now, just before this video, me and Lisa had this big argument about should we say wild camping or should we? Because it's such a contentious term. We're Andre and Lisa, full-time travelers and nomads since 2018. Last year, we bought a camper van in Europe and we're currently traveling along the coast of Portugal. This year, we're on an epic 20,000 kilometer adventure, making our way from the south of Spain to the north of Scandinavia and back to southern Italy. So subscribe and follow our adventures. Welcome back to our channel, guys. If you don't know, I'm Andre.
And I'm Lisa.
And today we're going to tell you about Portugal because we just wrapped up our 5-week trip in Portugal and we're going to tell you everything we've learned in those 5 weeks.
We're going to discuss our experience on the roads of Portugal, overnighting in Portugal, van life in general, what the vibe was like, what you need to know. We're going to talk about food. We're going to talk about sightseeing. We're going to talk about language. And then, of course, we're going to talk about the seasons, weather, and also some practicalities when it comes to visiting Portugal and particularly to van life or motorhoming through Portugal.
We travel by motorhome. If you don't follow us, hit the subscribe button. But this all applies to vanners as well, obviously. So shall we kick off? First is what you expect of the roads in Portugal. We came in from the south. We entered from the Spanish side and we did sort of the length of the Algarve coast and we cut straight up north along the coast and we exit Portugal at the north. We only did about 1,250 kilometers. Portugal is actually not that big.
No, and we pretty much covered the majority of the coast and this was over a period of 5 weeks.
The roads are reasonably good. We actually managed to avoid toll roads completely. Oh no, wait, there was one extension. You have to know that some of the toll roads are booth-based and some of them are electronic only. So you need to figure out which roads you want to take. What you can do, and that's what we did, we registered our vehicle once off online to use electronic only tolls, and actually we never used electronic only tolls.
But at least we were prepared in case Google accidentally put us onto one of those roads. It only cost 70 cents and I think that is well worth doing. There's an article on our website with all the links and descriptions of what we talk about.
Generally the toll roads are actually not expensive either way. If you don't have too big a vehicle, it's very feasible to take the alternative routes.
The only one toll that we did do was to cross over the bridge in Lisbon, which really saved us a 2-hour detour, and that only cost €4.15.
Yeah.
And in general, fuel prices in Portugal are slightly more expensive, roughly 6% more expensive than in the neighboring Spain. During the time that we were in Portugal, this was March and April of 2022, was exactly when there was a crazy fuel hike in prices in Europe. So we paid on average €1.96 in Portugal. We managed to not ever pay €2, which is actually quite a feat.
Just to put in perspective, when we left Spain, we filled up one last time at 1.849. And a couple of weeks before that, 3 weeks before that, we managed to get diesel at 1.3.
This is just before entering Portugal.
Yes. Wow. So you can't just blame it on Portugal. Everybody has seen massive increases.
So it's roughly only 6% more expensive than Spain. And the only other thing that we noticed coming from Spain into Portugal is that the driving style is definitely very different. We found Spain to be quite relaxed, whereas in Portugal, the drivers are rather erratic and enthusiastic on the roads.
Not aggressive though. No, and you don't hear car hooting and anything like that.
No.
But compared to Spain, there's a lot more tolerance towards cyclists and pedestrians. Where in Portugal, it's like...
We saw lots of near misses. But generally, driving in Portugal was a fairly pleasant experience, and we really can't complain about the ease of getting around or what it was like.
Okay, let's move on. Overnighting. Now, this is the big one. Is wild camping allowed in Portugal? Now, just before this video, me and Lisa had this big argument about should we say wild camping or should we? Because it's such a contentious term, the idea of what is wild camping, because we misuse that term a lot.
And so many times we heard before we went to Portugal, oh no, stay in Spain, don't go to Portugal because wild camping isn't allowed.
But wild camping isn't allowed in Spain either, people. Okay? So the thing is, you have to understand what is it? What is parking and what is camping? In Spain, parking is allowed almost everywhere. They cannot discriminate against you because you're in a motorhome. But in Portugal, it's not that simple.
Well, let's say parking and overnighting in your vehicle.
Okay. Let's
parking
clarify.
and overnighting in your vehicle is generally accepted.
In Spain or Portugal?
Both.
Well, no, because Actually, in Portugal, there's a lot more leeway towards the municipalities or municipal areas themselves. They can determine whether they allow motorhomes to overnight in the municipal area. And this is the crux of the matter. So firstly, you need to know wild camping is not allowed in Portugal. It's also not allowed in Spain. Okay?
But that does not mean that you cannot overnight in your vehicle for free legally.
Legally, in certain areas. Now, this is where it becomes interesting. For a while, it was over the COVID period, all wild camping and overnighting
vehicles
was banned in Portugal. There was an amendment passed to the Portugal Highway Code in August 2021, which sort of clarified a lot of this.
Should I read what it actually says?
No, it's too much. But it pretty much means that unless it's expressly prohibited, you can overnight in a municipal area for a maximum of 48 hours. Not camp, overnight.
Overnight in your vehicle. So that does not include taking out your awning, setting up your chairs and table, and being outside of your vehicle in a camping fashion.
Not even that, because camping can also be defined as using leveling wedges. Camping can be defined as using stabilizer.
Discharging liquids.
Oh yeah, that's not allowed at all. But the same applies to Spain. There are some exceptions where you're just not allowed to overnight at all, and that is most notably national parks or coastal areas predominantly, where it falls under the Natura 2000 network.
And those areas are predominantly in the south of Portugal.
Yes.
Just to get a little bit more information to clarify the difference between parking and camping, you can have a look at our website. Just leave a link below on a full article explaining the differences between parking and camping for Spain as well as for Portugal.
Yeah, make sure you understand it.
Even if it means using a rock to level your van.
Well, you can't help if you accidentally drive onto a little rock in this level event. Look, it's a great area. Leveling is a great area because if your vehicle is over 3.5 tons in Spain, I don't know if it applies to Portugal, you must use a chalk to prevent your vehicle from rolling. So it's all very interesting. But anyway, guys, there's plenty of places where you can legally overnight for free in your vehicle. Yes, you can't put out your chairs, but camping is obviously not allowed, but there are options.
And in addition to that, I mean, this surprised us in Portugal, the fact that there were so many places where you could overnight in your vehicle legally for free. But secondly to that is there are just such an abundance of cheap campsites. And what I really like about the campsites in Portugal is they sort of have this three-tiered approach. You can either pay to just go and use the services if you're a motorhome or camper van, which is really quite cheap. Or you can overnight at the campsite for generally under 10 euros, 6 to 10 euros thereabouts. Or you can pay an additional roughly 3 euros to have electricity included. And that's really nice to have that tiered approach that you can spend as much or as little as you want.
We talk about campsite, and this is now interchangeable with like a motorhome specific area. It's not really a campsite. It could be a motorhome area with electricity and even facilities like showers and toilets.
And often a laundry facility on site or some shared facilities.
So it's like we use the term interchangeably. It's not only real campsites.
Well, some are real. It's not luxury campsite where there's a swimming pool and kids' activities, that kind of thing. No, not at all.
Because we were here on the off season or shoulder season, that it does appear that there's more tolerance towards staying overnight.
But in total, over the 5-week period that we spent in Portugal, we spent a total of 12 nights in campsites. And this was actually a little bit skewed because we ended up spending 4 nights in a campsite in Porto over the Easter weekend. These campsites varied. Our cheapest one was €6 per night without electricity, which was an absolutely beautiful, spacious green grass campsite in the Algarve. And our maximum was €13, including electricity over the Easter weekend just outside of Porto.
Skewed our numbers a little bit that last, because it's sort of our last day in Portugal as well, but we deemed it necessary just to make it a little bit easier for us to see Porto.
And in total, we spent 16 nights staying in ordinary parking areas, which are not specifically made for motorhomes. 7 nights were in official serviced areas dedicated to motorhomes. Some of these were free and some were paid, which gave us a total of 19 nights spent completely for free in Portugal. And this could definitely have easily been higher.
It's no problem. You can find free places everywhere in Portugal.
So even though we ended up camping for quite a bit, 30% of the time, our average cost per night still went up to only €4 per night.
Let me just add, in the Algarve, it is more difficult to find free stops.
Unofficial stops.
Unofficial stops. It's a lot more tightly regulated in the southern coast parts. That's what we found. And as we moved up the west coast and more the surfer beaches along the west coast, seemed that there's a lot more options generally. We mostly use Park4Night. That seemed to be the easiest. We also mixed it up with the Axi app for motorhome stops, just to see if you see something whether it is official, legitimate stop.
And most importantly, to just make sure that you do read the recent reviews on Park4Night always, to see whether there have been any issues and if anybody's been fined and if it really is allowed.
Let's move on to Van Life General, and it leads up straight from parking to servicing. That's a question we get often. It's like, oh, where do you guys service your van, or what do you do? So even if you're just staying in a parking lot, it's not servicing areas. It's not as abundant as in places like France or Italy. I can be honest with you, but it's surprisingly there's alternative options which you don't see. Like for example, there's some supermarket chains which have service areas like Intermarché in Portugal,
and even Lidl
have dedicated parking areas for motorhomes. Most of the servicing is free, or it's pretty cheap if you have to pay for it.
You can find it free also at many fuel stations, things like that.
Yeah.
The difference is that it's just very often not at the place where you can also overnight for free.
Yeah.
The two things are separate. You overnight in one place, and every couple of days you go past a supermarket or fuel station and go and get servicing done. But let's say that off the bat, I was so surprised at just how popular van life is in Portugal. And what was so strange, an apparent difference to us coming from France and even in Spain, is the demographic. Suddenly, from being the youngest campers in a campsite, we were the oldest.
It's yourself.
It's this crazy young surfer vibe.
Could have been just the case of the time we were in Spain. It was sort of the dead of winter, and it was more like a retired, what do you call those people? Those the snowbirds, no, the sunbirds, I don't know. People who come south for summer. Whereas in Portugal, it was a little bit after winter. So there were more surfing type activities. All right, moving on to category number 4, food. Now, food is tricky because you can spend as much as you like, and generally I'll say Portugal is super affordable. We found Portugal similar price to Spain in supermarkets. There's absolutely no shortage of fresh produce and affordable, good quality ingredients, and it was actually noticeable that a lot of the stuff we found in Spain was available in Portugal. Like, for example, in season avocado and asparagus and fresh fruit and vegetables is really, really well priced and really affordable.
Of course, when you're in Portugal, the one thing that you have to eat is pastel de nata, and you can find these in every supermarket.
Yes.
But if you're there, do yourself the favor and make sure that you get at least one fresh, warm pastel de nata. It is completely different and just so much better than a store-bought one.
We've had some really good, surprising store-bought ones, but
nothing beats warm.
Yes, yeah, I agree.
Other strange dishes that we tried in Portugal was they're very well known for their salted cod. They've got a dish near Porto Franceschina, which looks like a terrible soggy
pile of
goo.
Let me just say that we've seen variations of this dish, and some look a lot more appetizing than others. Even the one we had didn't look great, but it actually looked better in retrospect than some of the others we've seen.
Yes, have it somewhere where it's a reputable place and it's actually so much more tasty than what it looks.
Yeah. So we didn't dine out a lot, but in Portugal it is quite affordable. You can get like plate of the day deals for fairly affordably, like 8 to 9 euros. And we, in total, per day, our food budget came out to about 20 euros for the both of us.
Which for us is actually quite high. Because we sort of just did whatever we wanted in Portugal. We didn't look at budget. We wanted to try different things. And
this does include all sweets and treats and also all drinks, although we didn't drink much, but we did buy some craft beer in the Algarve.
Did some port tasting.
All these things added up a little bit, but food is super affordable, but it can make a big difference on your budget. So this is where you got to watch out.
We may or may not disclose how many pastel de natas that included.
We were in Portugal for 36 days. You guys can guess in the comments below. How many pastel de natas did we eat
in 35 days?
Let's hop into the next topic, sightseeing. Generally speaking, sites and entry fees are fairly low compared to Western Europe standards. Cities like Lisbon and Porto are so beautiful and picturesque. You can spend weeks there exploring places like this without paying anything if you really want to. The coastlines are just phenomenal. I mean, there's amazing beaches for surfing, supping. Also, the Algarve itself is just so picturesque. You can hike there. There's amazing trails everywhere. We didn't particularly spend a lot of money on sightseeing and activities. We did do one big thing. You guys can check out our last video in Porto, where we did the Porto Bridge climb, which was quite nice. And that was probably one of the most expensive single activities.
Yeah, that was €17.50 per person, but it was well worth it to do something unique and different. And the entire coast of Portugal, the west coast, is just so beautiful. Yes, the Algarve is special, but the rest of the coast of Portugal is as beautiful in a different way. It has long stretches of sandy beach. You don't need to go to the Algarve to see the beauty of the coast of Portugal.
The beaches are incredible. Obviously, some of the best waves in the world in Portugal. I mean, like Peniche, where we were. Super Tubos is in Peniche.
Nazaré.
Obviously Nazaré, but that's not for everybody.
And the cities of Portugal, we only visited Lisbon and Porto, but they were so much more beautiful than I expected. Absolutely picturesque cities. We aren't city people, but they were just so beautiful. I really found them charming. The other thing that was a pleasant surprise coming from Italy and France is that in Portugal, everybody seems to speak a fair amount of English. It was really easy to get anything done in shops, just speaking to people, being able to converse, and that was fantastic. And people are also generally very friendly and open and helpful. It was a pleasure to travel in Portugal.
All right, next up, seasons. When should you come to Portugal?
Not when we're there.
Well, look, the wettest months are the winter months. Unfortunately for us, or fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know, Portugal had a very dry winter in 2021, 2022. We were there over March for the most of it, and
March
it was
to April,
very wet and dreary. It was just bad luck for us. So if you want the warmer weather, a lot of people say just come after the peak of summer. So sort of September is sweet, September, October, and then if you maybe do what we did, come maybe May.
So anytime from May to September, where obviously your peak months are within the summer, July and August, crazy hot, but anytime from May to September.
Also depends what you plan on doing. I like kite surfing, and there's not a lot of wind over winter, oddly enough, in Portugal. And also the ocean needs to be incredibly rough during the winter. So it's not ideal for surfing either. If you're an expert surfer, maybe it's still fine. But if you want to learn how to surf, you're probably better off coming in summer.
That's the thing. Portugal is such a popular destination to come and learn to surf and just do a week course or hang out. But winter is not the right time for that.
Like most of Europe, if it's school holidays or festivals, and especially during the summertime, it's just so busy. It can really become quite crazy. So we will obviously recommend to avoid the peak holiday season. But we learned something interesting. The Portuguese like their weekends. So no matter where you are, on weekends they come out to play. And this includes even like parking areas and campsites. So suddenly lots of little Portuguese vans and Portuguese motorhomes, and Sunday night they normally
disappear again. It really is a local phenomenon that everybody is out over the weekend. Cars, motorhomes, everybody.
But I mean, because we were here this time of the year, off season, generally it wasn't that much of a challenge to still have plenty of space.
So just some practicalities when it comes to van life or traveling in Portugal. With Portugal being known as one of the cheaper countries in Europe, I was surprised to find that laundry is roughly €1 more expensive than in Spain. It costs about €4 to €5 in Portugal, where it's €3 to €4 in Spain.
There's no shortage of laundromats.
No.
But we think it's got to do with the cost of electricity. It does seem to be slightly more expensive here.
I was glad to see that public toilets are fairly easy to find, and they're either free or really cheap.
Also, it's very easy to find fresh drinking water, whether you're in the cities or even outside. Everything, the water quality is generally quite good.
I was so chuffed to see that supermarkets are so welcoming to campervan. Supermarkets like Lidl and Intermarché, they often have dedicated campervan parking areas, which is great, as opposed to a height restriction boom.
Are you listening, France?
Yes.
We love you, France, but
Lidl, make bigger parkings. And in addition to having camper-friendly parkings, many of the supermarkets also have service points, and they have public toilets available. For those in vans, it's just so incredibly friendly.
Silent data, we went into Portugal, know exactly what we needed. We went to Meo, M-E-O, and they offer a package called Meo Enjoy. And it effectively comes down to €1 per day for unlimited data, which is unbeatable. You can get it for 5 days, 10 days, 15 days, 20 days, 25 days, 30 days. So,
unlimited data, guys. It's awesome.
And you don't even need a passport or an address. You walk in, you give your money, they give you some cards. You can also recharge it. We actually managed to recharge our card and just reload, or you can just buy another SIM if it's easier.
And fuel stations, LPG, all of that is easy to find all across Portugal. We had no hassles.
We have got a refillable LPG tank with an external filling point. It was no problem in Portugal as well. Okay, guys, we're going to wrap this up. In conclusion, Portugal is amazing.
Fantastic country. Beautiful, beautiful country. The only thing I could have asked for more is better weather. That's our fault for going in the off season. Next time we will definitely go back to Portugal somewhere between May and September to enjoy Portugal in the summer.
I think what we've learned is that camper vanning, motorhoming in Portugal is super easy, especially out of peak season. You're in for a great time, no doubt. Next time what we'll do is we'll probably aim to reach sort of the northern parts of Portugal come the end of summer, like maybe September, and then make our way down through Portugal just to see what that time of the year is like, and possibly then get to the south late in the year and then into Spain. So it's probably something you can maybe try as well.
And the thing is, in Portugal, places are actually so close to each other that you can travel faster. You could really see a lot of the country in a short period of time, even 10 days. And at the same time, next time I'd like to spend more time in Portugal, maybe 2 to 3 months.
Yeah, we to be honest, the time we'd spent there wasn't long enough. We could have spent months there.
If you want to see a little bit more about Portugal, go back and click on our Portugal videos.
We're going to come back to Portugal. Portugal, you were amazing. Thank you so much, guys. Thanks for watching. And we are currently in France, and from here we're just keeping more of, we're still aiming for Scandinavia. So keep watching and we'll catch you guys next time.
Couple of Spain videos to come before you get to France.
Yes, there's a few Spain videos in between. And we will wrap up our Spain theme because we spent a lot of time in Spain, but we've got another couple of Spain videos coming out, and then we'll do something similar to what we just did for Portugal. So stick around, we'll catch you guys next time.
Thanks for watching.
Adios.
I don't know what to say. Adios. Au revoir.
Adios.